by that order, and I can make my job your sequel.
Welcome everybody to the MLOPS AI Utah meetup. We talk about all things on this side of data. I don't know what why is my sound on? Sound. Not my sound. Somebody else's sound is on. Okay, I'm echoing. That's right. We like to talk about anything from data science to deploying AI to production. So glad you could come here with Meetup. We want to thank Weave for providing a building. Everybody from Weave is standing out by the door, making sure people can come in. Unless your name's Chris, then they will not let you in, and you have to call me. Forge provided the pizza tonight, and we're getting more. It's on its way. It'll be here in like 10 minutes. So I'll be plenty of pizza. We always have leftovers, so I probably underordered. If you want to continue the discussion after the meetup, we do have a Slack. You can join the Slack by going to our website, forgeutah.tech. Click the Join Slack button. We have a machine learning channel, an all things AI channel, data engine, any tech topic you can imagine. There's probably a channel. Just go to forgeutah.tech. Jump in, whatever conversations interest you. You get automatically added to a couple of channels. You'll get automatically added to the job board channel and the jobs wanted channel. If you're looking for a deployment, you can post your resume in the jobs wanted, and then people regularly will post jobs in the jobs channel. That's as I say, the best job board in the state of Utah, because the people that post 90% of the time work at the company. So you get a first-hand account of what it's like to work at that company. They'll be your referral. They get the referral bonus. You get to skip the queue of AI parsing resumes, because we know that doesn't get anywhere. Best job board. Other announcements. Next week is Tech Week. If you haven't heard, just go to the Utah Tech Week. Is it utah.techweek.dev, utah.techweek.com? There's some website somewhere. Just Google Utah Tech Week. You'll figure it out. There's a ton of great events. I just saw today that they're having an AI Agents Hackathon on Saturday, the 4th. So you can take everything Jeremy teaches you and go win money, because there is a monetary compensation prize if you want to give up your Saturday for that. And yeah, next month we have Kyle Nesbitt from Printable. He's going to come talk about how they use AI to make semantic layers. Anyway, it was like a semantic layer is such a data thing, but it was actually really cool AI talk in a weird way. He worked at like Looker ML and BigQuery ML a while ago, so they're using AI on domain-specific languages, essentially, is what that is. It's pretty cool. I have the description, I just haven't uploaded it yet. That's all for announcements. Unless anybody else has something they want to shout out. Cool. Pizza will be coming. When pizza shows up, just feel free to stand up and go get some. And we'll let Jeremy go. Jeremy gave a great talk last year, LLM Ops 101, and I told him I said, Jeremy, you did an intro talk, but for agents and tool calling. Because I think that lots of people know about AI, but they don't know about that. I didn't know about it at the time, and then I haven't stopped doing it since, so I feel like an expert. I don't know what I'm talking about. Oh, look, pizza. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I feel like an expert, so. He actually is an expert, so let's give him a round of applause.
Those are some nice words. Expert maybe going a little far, but...
You're writing a book. Don't you dare undersell yourself.
I'm excited to share with you a little bit about what I know about models. Now, give me just a sec to get set up here. I gotta rejoin. New laptop means setting up permissions for everything. So let's try this again. All right, ask.
Yeah, you saw that.
I saw the hack. I'm in the system. All right, let's try sharing my entire screen. Oh, I don't know what it is. All right, we have to completely close everything. The result of that. So, okay, Agents 101. As I said, last year we did MLOPS 101. People seem to like it. This year we're going to do Agents 101. A little bit about myself. Jeremy. I work at Pattern. A little bit about me. Graduated from BYU, where I studied computer science, data science. I did some research on deepfakes at the time. Had a great experience. Since then, I've loved to get involved in the Utah tech community. I got married a couple of years ago. I enjoy canyoneering and skiing, depending on the season. And I'm currently wrapping up a book with my co-author called Architected Intelligence. Very excited to have that published in a couple of months. Writing a book is a lot of work, as Chris will tell you. What is Pattern and why do we use AI? Some of you may have heard of Pattern, but for those who haven't, we are an e-commerce company. What that means and like what we do with it, I won't go too much into the details of, but the point is we deal with a lot of data and a lot of different problems. And so there's a lot of opportunities for AI to help us with this. In the context of when I talk about AI, I'm typically referring to generative AI with large language models. Yes, so some clarity around that term. Some of the things we've done over the years, we've done optimization of listings on Amazon, content briefs for comparing you against your competitors, and now GEO. It's like SEO, but for ChatGPT. Many different opportunities to leverage AI in the e-commerce space. Some fun stats about AI usage at Pattern. We manage an AI gateway that does over 100 million LLM calls a month. And we have a wide range of chatbots, vibe coding, AI products, and many, many more things. And all of these contribute to us having to work with AI a lot. And in the process, I've come to have some opinions about AI and agents that I'm excited to share with you guys today. The first one is, what is an AI agent? Now I want to open this up, kind of see what people's thoughts and opinions are on this term, AI agent. When you guys hear AI agent, what do you think that means? Like, shout stuff out.
An AI assigned to a task that attempts to complete it until it thinks it's done.
I love it. That's a great definition. What other definitions do people use?
Cool calls that are run in a loop.
Calling running in a loop. I like that.
It's any AI specific tool that has a higher degree of autonomy than you would have, typically allow for a standard generative AI workflow.
I love it.
I like to think that an agent is anything that does anytime an AI does something on your behalf. So it doesn't have to be a long process. It could be a single call, right? But as long as it's taking that extra step of doing something on your behalf, that is an agent.
There you go.
That's like, I don't know, the old definition for like
The old definition.
years ago when Chris started building.
I think there is a wide range of definitions. An agent is many things. It's a marketing term your CEO won't stop using. It's prompt. It's a deterministic workflow with AI steps. It's secretly humans behind the scene. This was a Slack message I got a couple of
Somebody
weeks
asked
ago.
us that at my job though.
Yeah, they were like, how do I build an agent? And I was like, what do you mean?
They said they were demoing our product and they're like, wait, so who's on the other side of the screen? And you're like, AI. And they're like, no, but really? And then people, yes, I'm saying it's a legitimate, we say it funny, but it's like, no, people really think that it is
Yeah.
somebody else.
And in some cases it has been. I remember there was a story a couple of years ago, there was some AI transcription company, joins your Zoom call or whatever to transcribe everything. And they were like, yeah, back in 2018, we had no idea what we were doing. We were still building it. So we would just join people's Zoom calls as humans and we would just write down everything that happened. And then we would email them afterwards. And I was like, that's crazy. But there's all these things that people say agents are. In my opinion, the most pure definition of an agent, but you can use the term agents in other ways, is a loop with tool calls. So exactly what you said. In my opinion, this is like kind of the modern definition of an agent, but we'll also talk about where workflows and more deterministic AI processes come in later. But at its core, this is what people talk about with agents, a loop with tool calls. Now, what is a tool call? Tool calling lets your AI take actions. In this picture, I think we've got a great example here where someone asks what the weather is. The LLM looks at the prompt and has a variety of tools it can call upon. There's a weather tool, stock tool, an order status tool, and it calls on the weather tool to find out information about what the weather is today, and then returns that to the user. Now, I feel like there's a lot of misunderstanding around how tool calling works and that it's magical. So I really just kind of want to break it down and kind of demystify it, because really, tool calling is just next token prediction, but taken kind of to the next level. Tools have three components: a name, a description, and a parameter, and parameters that it accepts. That's really all a tool is. In this case, in this example we were looking at earlier with the weather tool, we're going to break it down. We have a get weather tool with a description, and then it can take city and the number of days you want to look at. Now, typically you provide these as a separate argument from the prompt. Now, as we keep going here, we can see a user might ask something like, what is the weather today? And without realizing it, the system is also going to be sending a list of tools that the AI has access to, along with maybe a tool mode, say it's an auto. Now, the assistant might respond with something to help clarify before it can call the tool. They'll ask, what city are you in? The user says, I'm in Lehigh. And we resend all the tool info, and the assistant responds with get weather, city Lehigh, days 1. That would be a little silly to show that JSON blob to the user. So what actually happens is that this tool response is intercepted by code, and the get weather tool is called. Now, you might use some sort of UI element to indicate to the user that something is happening behind the scenes. If you've used some sort of coding agent, you've probably seen this a lot where it says it's reading a file or something. You got a comment?
Where's a loop? Where's the loop?
Yeah, so we'll get into that. Yeah. So in this case, there's not a lot of looping going on. This is a very just deterministic one-shot. We ask it to do something, and it responds with a tool call. And in this case, the tool call responds with the temperature. So the code intercepts the tool response, and it sends it to the tool. It's often like an API or something. API responds with, in Lehigh, the weather today is 87. And the AI can respond with natural language to the user saying, weather in Lehigh today is 87 degrees. Now, why does tool calling work? Why is it that the AI is able to reliably do this? Models are trained to do tool calling. Initially, tool calling was really bad, had low success rates. They started out with something called JSON mode and then moved on to structured output. And model improvements in engineering made it possible to put in something like, I'm Lance and I like to bike, and you provide a schema of, I want to get the name and the interest out of them, and it'll respond with it formatted correctly. And they've improved this so much where it used to be very low reliability to now you can do hundreds of tool calls in a row perfectly. Now I want to kind of demonstrate how this works real quick with something called N8N. And the reason I like to use N8N for this demo is because it's so visual. N8N is a no-code, low-code platform that lets you build out workflows and agent-like things. And I really like it because the visualization of the process is really clear. So we're going to pull up an example here of a joke agent. You'll see it has some tools attached to it. So we have our agent, we have the model, and then we have some tools that have been attached to it. And I can ask the agent to do something. I can say, tell me a joke. And you can see here, it called the joke API, and it'll tell me a joke, assuming it doesn't. There we go. Why do bees have sticky hair? Because they use a honeycomb. Ha 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 ha. Very funny. Now you can see here if I ask it a different question, I can say, how would I use the jokes API to make a call myself? You'll see that it will now call the API docs tool instead. So yeah, NNN is a great way to not only build stuff, but also show other people how agents work. So if you find that in your role at work, you're struggling to communicate how tool calling works or how AI workflows or AI agents work, this is a great way to help visualize those things. Okay, let's pop back into this. The other part of agents, in addition to tool calling, is planning. Now this used to be previously explicit. There are all these frameworks like React and stuff. And then all of the AI providers were like, this is so useful, let's just like train it directly into the model. Just have reasoning built right in. So now this is often like just typically natively handled by a reasoning step. Sorry, I meant to say step, not loop there. This is when people talk about, oh, this is a reasoning model. They now have a reasoning step before they begin to actually output stuff. It can still be beneficial to have an explicit planning step or a planning tool. If you use something like Cursor or some other coding tool, you'll notice that a lot of them have a planning mode where it makes some sort of PRD-ish type thing, where it sets out its objectives and goals and the features it wants to do. And this can be beneficial for the agent to navigate what it wants to do. Now let's go back to the loop thing. Typically, when working with agents, this definition of agents that we've created of it's in a loop, it's doing many tool calls in a row. And what that means is as these agents get better and better, they're able to autonomously operate longer and longer. So this benchmark is the METR long task benchmark, which measures the ability of modern models to operate on their own for an extended period of time. Now, it's a little like wishy-washy how they've done it here, but the general idea is how long does it take to complete a task from the perspective of a human and whether the AI can successfully complete that task. You can see here as models have improved, the length of time these AIs are able to autonomously operate is improving. And this is a direct result of the increased reliability of tool calling, along with improvements in model intelligence and the harnesses around models. Now, what are practical applications for these agents? Goal-oriented tasks with dynamic environments. Now, what does that even mean? I think some great examples of goal-oriented tasks with dynamic environments are, first and foremost, coding. With coding, you have a goal, and the environment is constantly shifting, right? The code you're in, what you're trying to do, there's typically a very distant goal you want to reach with many steps in between here and there. This is a perfect area for agents, and that's why coding has been one of the foremost areas of agent creation. General web research is another one. A lot of AI providers provide this out of the box, actually. Now, you don't even need to build it yourself. They have something called deep research from OpenAI. You can just plug directly into this, throw jobs at it, and it'll just find information for you. Obviously, you can get this through ChatGPT as well, but they found that it's so helpful they made it available over API, and we use this in some of our internal processes. Very helpful. Recursive site analysis is another one. We wanted to build a profile of a website and recommend ways to optimize it for GEO. So we built an agent that recursively crawls through the website and identifies opportunities for improvement. This is great because sites are dynamic, right? Every website is different. They're all structured in different ways. Having an agent operate rather than some sort of brittle, beautiful soup like script that'll break every time has been really helpful. And then of course role play, people who are building video games, trying to research mimicking human behavior, find that agents are great for this kind of stuff. Now what about all these bots that are handling my calendar, responding to Slack messages? I like to call these AI directors and AI workflows. I I think in many ways these are actually more useful than agents, but I think they have a somewhat different purpose and design. They're handling goal-oriented tasks in static environments. They don't loop repeatedly over tasks. Their environment is known. They'll often perform two types of jobs. They're classifying an incoming set of data into one of several predefined options, and then maybe they're formatting a payload for the chosen option. This kind of goes back to what Mariah was saying of sometimes an agent, as people refer to it, is just a single step. It's just taking input and transforming it into a different output. And that can provide value. Another framework I use to kind of think of this is actions versus orchestration. Who's orchestrating it and who's doing the action? You can think of agents are kind of what we've been talking about up to this point. Then you have your AI directors. This is kind of like Siri, where you have lots of different options that you want to classify a user prompt into. Maybe you want it to set an alarm, call mom, play a song. The AI will figure out what the correct path is. Then you have your AI workflows. You have some sort of trigger that kicks it off. Maybe you want to transform data, modify it somehow. You have an AI do that, and then it returns the deliverable. Then you've got your traditional no AI orchestration, no AI action. This is just traditional software. I believe the modern software ecosystem has room for all four of these. I think all four of these have value and applicability. And that's one of the challenges of being a modern developer, is figuring out when to use each one of these appropriately. Again, workflow being greater than agents. Agents are great, but they can be really complicated. They can be messy. They can be non-deterministic. There is a lot of value that comes from building out a deterministic workflow that has AI steps, rather than just a complete agent that just goes wild. So I think there's a lot of value that comes from having that workflow first mindset. Yes?
Do you ever combine them into agentic workflows?
Yes. So I think, well, it just depends. What do you mean by an agentic workflow?
I don't know, I've just been using the term a lot at work, so I just.
So agentic workflows.
I mean, essentially, I think of it as a workflow. It's just a lot of the steps in it. I would let be an agent that takes care of those steps.
Yes.
Right, great. So like step one is I need to do some research, and so I'll have a web search agent that can go make this, that has several tool calls they can do, whether it be a web search or a doc search or whatever. And so that'd be the step. And anyway, so like there's several steps in the workflow, but agents are executing the steps. That's how the word I've been using, but like, who knows what the words mean anymore? They change.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing. It's like, what is an agentic workflow? What is an AI agent? I think all of these terms are still blending together in different ways, and people are using them in different ways. I think the agentic workflow is in many ways the most popular pattern right now, and it's kind of a spectrum. I remember last year I went to a conference in New York called AI Agents, and it was pretty much every talk was the same. People went up and they were like, yeah, that whole like non-deterministic agent stuff, like we're not actually doing that. When we say agents, really we mean we're building agentic workflows. And that was like every speaker over and over again. Like this is what everyone's doing. It's just kind of interesting. So I think that this is kind of like.
I'm glad I know what I'm talking about then.
You do know what you're talking about. I think AI workflows are the way to go. You're going to get more reliability. You're going to get faster response times. It's easier to debug. There's just a lot of advantages that come from that. So, very bullish. Now, what goes into building an AI-first workflow? Call it an agent, call it a workflow, whatever you want. In my mind, there's kind of like 4 I's that come into building these. You have to initiate it, and then you have to inspect the result from it. There may be an improvement step where you go back, you approve it, and you go back and inspect it again, and then finally you implement it. You take the output and you put it into action. You display it to the customer, you put it in the database, whatever the case may be. These 4 I's, in my opinion, form kind of the bedrock of building these AI workflows. And there's a lot of interesting ways you can start to put these together. You know, we were talking about, putting multiple of these agents together, right? You can stack them, you can chain them, you can combine them in lots of ways. They're very modular. So as you start to build individual agents, you can start to combine them together in lots of interesting ways. Your web research agent suddenly becomes a useful tool for any other agent to call upon, any other workflow. Now, you do have to beware the Rube Goldberg machine. Sometimes we see this where people create very complicated systems that just tend to, this is you?
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a trap that a lot of us can fall into where we get very excited about the incredibly complex process we've built out, especially because AI makes coding so easily. We can just churn out hundreds and hundreds of lines of code. We do risk overcomplicating very simple tasks. And so this is something I try to always be on the lookout for is I built an AI agent for this or an AI workflow, but would a regex statement do the same thing? Something to think about.
What code beta was just regex? No, they fixed it before they went GA, but beta was just regex.
But there's power in regex,
Agreed.
even if you can't debug it.
Accurate.
But that's what AI is for. Now, how do you initiate your workflow? The first I, there's triggers. How is your workflow or your agent being kicked off? Now, sometimes they're like event-driven or what we could call data arrival. Something happens in the system that kicks it off. A new customer is onboarded and you want to automatically scrape the internet and send them a welcome email. Maybe don't do that, that's a little weird, but an example for you. Maybe it's user initiated. Someone clicks start agent. Maybe it runs on a schedule once a day. There's all sorts of different ways you can kick off these agents. And you just have to think about what's the most appropriate one for you. This gets into a lot of data engineering practices. Or you're thinking about what is the best way I want to structure this agent as far as kicking it off? Do I want it to run every single time a new event hits the system? Or should I maybe batch it to once a day, right? I've seen a lot of people, they build agents, for example, that trigger when someone adds a comment to an Asana task in an entire workspace. Suddenly that agent is running, thousands and thousands of times in a day. It's just a massive load on the system. And so I go to them and I say, well, let's maybe restructure it where it just runs once an hour and it grabs all the new comments and updates all of them in one go. And they're like, oh, I can live with a little latency. So these are the kind of decisions you need to think about when you're building these agents. What's going to be the load on the system? What is the deciding factor for kicking it off? What level of latency is acceptable? Now, as far as inspecting goes, there's a lot of ways you can check the output of an agent or a workflow once it's done. You have rules-based. Is the output formatted correctly? Yes, no. LLM as judge or AI inspection is very popular and in vogue. You'll hear a lot of influencers talking about this. Just have AI judge AI. And it can work in some situations. You just need to...
That's how I do all my evals.
You gotta make sure you know what you're doing. But it can be a great way to do it. Human inspection. Humans are often the deciding factor in what's right or wrong. It can be a challenge, though, if different humans have different opinions on what's right and wrong. And that is a problem I've run into a lot.
We hallucinate too.
We hallucinate too. Yeah, we all have different ideas on what's right and wrong. We've had things where we ask AI to classify images into one of 32 different buckets. And then we go to, 3 different humans and we say, did it classify these correctly? And we get 3 different answers. And so it's really challenging. You've got conditional inspection. Maybe you're doing so many inspections you want to start to stagger them because it would get really expensive. Human review, for example, very expensive. I often like to call humans just very expensive databases that you can push and pull from. And so you got to think about, can I afford to have a human review tens of thousands of items in a day? Or maybe it should just review the most high priority ones, and then we can tier the rest of them by either AI review or rules-based. And then, of course, you've got escalating inspection as well, and I think you can kind of get the idea from that graphic. Now, building and deploying an agent. How can I build and deploy an agent? I am curious to hear from everyone here, what tools are people using to build agents? What frameworks are people using?
The one you demoed was the one I've heard the most about.
N8N, yeah. By raise of hands, who's here has played with N8N or has tried it out? 1, 2, 3, a little bit.
The other one, was it lane graph is the other one that people really like?
Lane graph, yeah, by raise of hands, who's here has played around with lane graph? Oh, we got a big raised hand over here, yeah. What have you built with lane graph?
Just some internal tooling that solves niche dev problems. Sorry, can't think of how to describe it.
Very cool. So internal dev solutions.
I'm using strands from AWS. It's really cool. I'm
Yeah.
going to speak on it in about a month. People can come here.
There you go. Make sure to attend that. Strands is great. Comes from the folks at AWS. Integrates with their ecosystem really nicely. Any other frameworks or tools that people have used?
Internal agents SDK.
Okay. So you guys have built your own personal SDK. That's actually a surprisingly common thing. People at companies build their own SDKs, their own systems.
That too at work.
It kind of seems like everyone has invented their own like platform internally.
We also use Cloud Agent SDK.
Cloud Agent SDK.
We also use that at work.
Okay, nice.
There's a lot of agent bricks and the Salesforce agent ecosystem right now,
Yeah.
like with the big players, the expensive players.
I think a lot of those big platforms like Salesforce and others, they have their own little ecosystems where you can build with inside of it. And those are great too. Has anybody built an agent using just like raw code, like Python, Go, TypeScript?
I only do it the hard way.
I think these are all valid ways to build. I've done it every way. I've built agents with raw Python code. I've built agents with SDKs of providers. I want to remove this word true. That feels kind of demeaning to agent workflow frameworks. But I think we've mentioned CrewAI, LangGraph, N8N. These are all very popular ways to build agentic workflows. And then you've got your agentic frameworks that are non-flow, your Mostras, your Claude codes, your strands. And all of them are on a spectrum, of course, so they can all do a little bit of each way. But these are all great ways to build agents and agentic workflows.
Go venture.
Where should my agent live? Agents can live anywhere. How do you deploy an agent? Some people, of course, like Chris, are hardcore and they just run everything on their personal computing empire in their basement. I aspire to one day have that level of compute. But the rest of us have to just rely on the cloud. And you can stick an agent anywhere in the cloud. I'm an AWS guy. We've stuck them in ECSs and Lambdas. But also specialized agent deployment infra is becoming very popular. If Earl is talking about strands, there's a chance he might talk about, are you going to talk about Agent Core as well as part of that?
No, I'm not using Agent Core.
Okay, he's like, I'm too cool for Agent Core. That's okay. We're using Agent Core. We really like it. Agent Core is a new service by Amazon. It's basically a framework agnostic agent deployment platform. So you can code an agent in whatever you want, raw Python, you can use a framework of some sort like LangGraph, Mostra, Strands, of course, is the one they promote the most. And then you can deploy it up. And it's kind of like Lambdas where it just kind of is serverless. It spins up when you need it to, very fast cold starts, super low overhead of just like micro VMs running on Firecracker. But unlike Lambdas, there's no time limit. You can have them run indefinitely. So that's kind of cool. And they have a whole bunch of other cool nifty features in there as well.
Sorry, so I probably missed this and you said it like 12 times.
Uh-huh.
What is the difference in your view between an agentic workflow and a true agent? Like you were saying, like LangGraph is a workflow and Claude Code is an agent.
Yeah, I think loops, right? So if you have a deterministic process where it's step 1, step 2, step 3, that's what I would call a workflow. And some of those steps may be agents, right? Or like have AI involved in them. You may say, I want AI to transform this data, or I want AI to choose from one of these 3 tools and go do something. Or I have like a fork in the road of my graph where it could be option A, option B, option C. I want it to choose which fork to go down. But at the end of the day, it's a deterministic process it's walking through. In my mind, agents are more, I would define them as more open-ended, right? There's no like explicit steps of like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's more just like, here's a goal, and then I'm just gonna throw a bunch of tools at you and say like, go figure it out, right?
Okay, cool.
Yeah. It's a fair question though, and I think it slides a little bit each way, you know, and it's like, well, a step could call an agent, right? That's just more open-ended and it loops on itself for a while. So then at that point, what do you call it? Do you call it an agent? Do you call it a workflow? I don't know. Does it really matter?
No.
At the end of the day, as long as you're getting the thing done, that's what's most important. So, other elements to think about with agents: tools, evals, and knowledge management, document intelligence. I have not talked a lot about like tools and stuff, other than like tool calling specifically. The next slide will talk a little bit about tools. There just wasn't enough time to squeeze in the entire world of tools and all that's available there. So just know that your agents are only as good as the tools you give them. Additional evals are important. We talked about this a lot last year. We talked with evaluating your AI systems, and evals are just more complicated than ever now that everything is so agentic and has tool callings. Not only do you need to evaluate the output of your LLMs, you also need to evaluate which tools they pick along the way. Internally, we're building a bunch of benchmarks to evaluate the performance of our agent. And part of the benchmark is, you know, did it get to the right end result or not? But also part of the benchmark is, did it call the right tools along the way? Kind of an interesting thing to think about there. And then of course, knowledge management and document intelligence. That is like a whole gigantic world I wish I could get into. This is something we're very bullish about at Pattern, but thinking about, okay, my company has a bunch of knowledge that would be extremely beneficial for AI to be aware of. Company documents, PDFs, slides, structured data, databases. If only you could access this information, it would be extremely useful. And then not only that, how can the AI then feed back into it as customers interact with the agent and say, this document is out of date? How can I go in and update all of those? So this is a whole really interesting world that I think is really important for enterprises to think about. But I do want to briefly just talk about tools. By raise of hands, who's heard of MCP? Like everybody, it's been all over LinkedIn and Twitter for like a year straight.
It came out in March, it hasn't been a year yet.
Has it not been a year?
No.
It's felt like 5. MCP is great. It's standardization of tool calling provided by Anthropic. Out of all the protocol wars and standards going on, this one seems to have the most cross-provider adoption. It does solve a lot of like critical problems of how do you communicate the existence of tools back and forth between clients and servers, what their structure is, authentication around them. However, they're very manual and time consuming, and they eat up a massive amount of context window with the more tools you provide. A lot of people are talking now about skills. Skills are basically just folders with text files in them describing how to do stuff. And all you do is you just throw like a bash tool and a code execution tool at your LLM, and you say, here's a list of files that can tell you how to do stuff. All I'm gonna give you is a bash script like to read from them, and then like a code execution environment to go nuts with just like executing all of these things that it can advise you on. And so it's just kind of interesting to see like the different approaches to tool calling, where some people are going all in on MCP, where everything is very tightly defined, authentication, clearly spell everything out, and then other people are kind of going rough and tumble with skills, where it's just like, just dump everything in some text files, give it a code execution tool, and it'll just kind of figure everything out on its own.
File traversing.
By traversing.
Do you have like a mental model on which of those two broad approaches are right for the particular task?
I would say,
One of the drawbacks of MCP is it eats up the context window. So there's compute costs associated with it.
it's a good question. I'd say risk profile is probably one of them. Like, if you're just programming on your own local machine and you have a good sandbox set up, then running hard and fast with skills can be a great solution. But if you're trying to build some like enterprise agentic solution that needs to be highly reliable with a lot of authentication built in, then MCP is going to be a better bet for you. So I would say that's probably the main axis I would evaluate them on, and then probably also like speed. I think skills is fast to get started with. MCP can often be, if you're like trying to wrap your own systems in MCP, it can be a lot of work instead of just taking ones off the shelf.
I just want to piggyback on what you're saying and say for anybody who's wondering like what does a good, very easy sandbox look like, Docker now includes just the command Docker sandbox in whatever folder you're in, and it creates a copy of that whole workspace where you can do that hard and fast skills.
Yeah, I love it. Has anybody seen on LinkedIn or Twitter this week, there's something called Claudebot that's been going around?
Yes.
Very popular in the feeds. They just got a little cease and desist from Anthropic, so they just renamed it to Mogbot or something like that. Something like that, I think. Yeah, and so and that got a lot of headlines because it's people were just running it on their computer. It's just like an open-ended agent that was just looping over tasks. And that was just connected to the internet, no sandbox, and people were like, well, this is awesome. And then all of a sudden, like, their computers were getting hacked. So agents are powerful, but you can also shoot yourself in the foot with them. So please run them in a sandbox, and don't shoot yourself in the foot. What about multi-agent architectures? We were just having a little chat about this in the Forge Utah Slack. If you're not already in there, please join it. This is a little something. Did you share this, Chris?
I did.
This is a little benchmark that came out this week. They tried having multiple agents. Was it today? Okay, hot off the press. Trying to have two agents rather than one attempt to solve a problem, and it actually made it worse. And if I think anyone has ever tried to work on a coding agent and try to run multiple in parallel, you've experienced this yourself. You're like, yeah, this doesn't work. I can only do one agent at a time. So as you're building things out for your internal systems and your internal solutions and customer-facing stuff, sometimes two is not better than one. Sometimes one is best. So that's pretty much everything I had to share with you today. Thank you so much for listening. And then I just want to open it up to some like group discussion Q&A for a little bit. Yeah.
Where do you think agents are at a year from now?
Well, that's a good question. I keep underestimating like the growth of AI. I keep thinking it's like starting to plateau, and it just keeps going. Like I think today, like the people, let's take coding for an example. I think the leading edge of coders who are adopting it are finding they're able to do 90% of their coding now with AI agents and be very successful with it. And I think the rest of the industry will follow. I think that that same pattern is going to start to bleed into other areas. I think what's just going to take a while is the integration step of just integrating AI into all of these different things. I think we've seen a lot of Band-Aid solutions so far where people have lazily slapped chatbots on top of their existing systems. But I think there's a lot of companies, Pattern included, that are going to ground right now and completely building from the ground up, completely new systems that are AI first. And those take time to build out, but I think you're going to start seeing more and more things just be deeply, deeply integrated with AI. And I think we've seen where the deeper you can integrate AI and the more reliable the tool calling gets, the better it works. So I think by next year, you're just going to see AI agents everywhere in the same way the internet came to dominate everything.
This is a very broad question, and without getting into NDA territory, what do you mean when you say AI first as it relates to the work that you're doing right now?
That's a great question. An AI-first organization looks at using AI to fundamentally accelerate the company rather than being a lazy Band-Aid you slap on everything. And for us, that's completely rethinking how we do all of our internal systems. A big part of that is redesigning every single piece of our entire organization to be what we call user agnostic. So everything should be able to be used by either a human or an AI, with the intention of we can build systems out where an AI or a human can start using it immediately and provide immediate value, and then as the AI start to catch up to it, we start pivoting to having AI be responsible for all of those tasks and roles. And we're also thinking about how we have a massive landscape of tools and dashboards and web pages and services that are extremely difficult to navigate for all of our partners and all of our internal users. If we can unify all of that through a interconnected AI system, it allows our users to instantly find what they need rather than spending 30 minutes navigating through to the right dashboard, downloading it, transforming the data, sending an email out. All of that can be done in an AI-first ecosystem. So,
Where are you on your, like vibe coding journey? Are you still like reading code or like a sucker?
yeah, like a sucker. I think I'm progressing on my vibe coding journey. Just this week, I wanted to add some custom nodes to our N8N environment, and I was like, let's just go all AI on this one. And I just threw like documentation at it and some examples, and it took a couple of tries to like reprompt it, but eventually it got to the point where on like the second or third try, I just threw all the information at it. I went to go get a Diet Coke. By the time I came back, I booted up the UI. There she was, all my custom nodes. They rendered correctly, everything was working. I connected it to the external API it was supposed to connect to. Worked on the first try. I was like, it's pretty sweet. So it's still getting there, but at the same time, it's not perfect. So there's still some growth with both myself and with the AI platforms. We're also very bullish on vibe coding at Pattern. We just adopted Lovable and Google AI Studio for all of our internal business users to quickly prototype and build little just like web apps to quickly solve problems and to demonstrate upcoming features they'd like to see in our different platforms. So we're very excited about that. Question? Yeah.
What do you do to observe like the effectiveness of your AI agents in production?
That's a great question. Observability is key. There's kind of two halves to observability. There's what I like to call software engineering observability and data science observability. The software engineering observability is making sure that the system is working correctly. Hooking it up to a traditional software observability system like Grafana and Prometheus, or Datadog or New Relic, whatever the case may be. Making sure that all the code you wrote is working. This is especially good for deterministic processes. The other side is what I like to call data science observability. And this is less about the what that's happening, but more about like the why it's happening. This is looking at evaluations, benchmarks, getting feedback from users. This is like tweaking your prompts, tweaking what tools you have available, if necessary, fine-tuning your models. Although I find that most of the time you can do a lot of stuff before you get to that point. All of those things go into the data science side of observability to make sure that your AI agents and workflows are behaving the way you want them to. Question? Okay. Well, I really like talking to you guys today. I'm on LinkedIn, so if you have anything else you want to chat about, please reach out to me. I love talking with people in the community, happy to go out to lunch or just chat online or do a video call. But I love being part of the Utah community. I think we're doing a lot of cool stuff out here with AI and just with tech in